Hello, Edgar. Hello, Edgar!
Say hi, Edgar.
You wanna wave?
Hello, Edgar. I live on Fragment Road and I love your wee story. Bye. Hello, Edgar.
Hi, Edgar. We loved the story about the sower.
We loved your big wellies. Bye.
Bye. Hello, Edgar.
Hi, Edgar.
Hello, Edgar.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you again, and welcome back to another story from Edgar. Yep, good. Had you a good week, Edgar, this week? Yep, you've really enjoyed looking at all of it. See, he can't stop waving. He's just so excited because he's seen all the hellos that you sent in, and he's been really happy with those, and been watching them all week, haven't you? Yep, we've been really struggling to get him away from the TV screen, but he's really enjoyed that. He's enjoyed the fact that you're all watching and liking what you're listening to, and hopefully he's really excited because you're learning more about Jesus and more about stories from the Bible. So what we're going to do today, we've got another story, haven't you? Yep, another story to tell. And he thought, because he's been a wee bit popular this week, he thought he would tell you a story about Jesus and the big crowds that follow Jesus. Because Jesus was a really popular guy. When he was around and teaching, he had lots of people who would come and listen to him. And what Edgar's done is he's brought his bag with us today, and there's a couple of things inside his bag that we're going to use to tell you the story about one day this big crowd of people followed Jesus. They had arrived out in the wilderness. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever been in the wilderness, like a big desert type place, very little water, no shops, no streets, no houses, just a very barren kind of place. And they had been there all day, and can you imagine how they're feeling? They've been in the sun, they have been listening to Jesus teach all day, and they're probably a bit tired. They're also probably a bit hungry. Their bellies are probably empty, they're a bit hungry, and they're looking for something to go in their mouths to feed them. And so at the end of the day, the disciples come to Jesus and say, Jesus, look at all these people. There's so many of them. We need to send them home. They need to go and get to sleep, and they need to go and get some food as well. And so the disciples said to Jesus, let's just send them home and see if we can get some food for ourselves. But Jesus said, no. Jesus says, can't send them home. He says, what we're going to do is we're going to feed them ourselves. Okay, so this is where Edgar's bag comes in. What he's got inside his bag here is going to help us tell the story. So are you going to help me open the bag up here? Let's get this open up. Okay, see if we can get it open and find out what you have inside your bag. Okay, here we go. Just put the bag over here out of the way so we can see what's inside it. And what have we got? We've got his lunchbox that he has with him. You got something else in your bag, haven't you? Yep. And we've got another strange thing. We've got a calculator. Wonder, do you like maths? Edgar doesn't really like maths. He finds it very difficult. So that's why he's got his calculator with him today, because we're going to help you maybe do some thinking about some sums in a minute. Okay, so what we need to do, isn't it, we need to see what's inside his lunchbox, see what he's got for lunch. So let's take off the lid and leave it over here. Okay, so let's see what we've got inside this lunchbox. First of all, well, we've got some bread here. So you're going to count the bread. 1, 2, 3. Any more? Yeah, more coming. 4, 5 pieces of bread. leave that there. Have you got anything else? Yep, he had a big lunch today, so he's got something else. Look, it's all wrapped up here in tin foil. Let's see what we've got. Let's set it on top of the box here and see if we can unwrap it. You like this, don't you? Oh, I smell it. Do you smell what it is? Oh, I know even before I open it what it is. I can smell it. Look. It's fish. One piece of fish and another piece of fish. Now your lunch, yeah. He loves fish. One of his favourite things. So he's got, you remember how many loaves of bread he had? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how many pieces of fish did he have? He had 2. 5 loaves and 2 fish. So that's Edgar's lunch, and the reason he's brought that lunch with us for the story today is because, remember what we were talking about, Jesus, this big crowd of 5,000 people. Can you imagine 5,000 people? It's hard to imagine a big crowd like that, isn't it? But this was how many people there were. And they were all hungry, and Jesus said, have we got any food? And this one boy came forward with his lunch, isn't that right? And his lunch had, guess, 5 loaves, wee tiny rolls, and 2 small fish. Probably very different from the lunch you take to school, but that's what this boy had for his lunch that day in the wilderness. And Jesus said, okay, let's feed all the people. And the disciples looked at him and thought, how is that going to be possible? How could we feed 5,000 people with just 5 loaves and 2 fish? Jesus, it's impossible. Okay, here's where the maths comes in. You get the calculator ready. Okay, so let's get the calculator over here. Okay, so calculate, if you have 5 loaves and there's 5,000 people, how many people would you have to feed out of each one of those loaves? 5,000 divided by 5. Anybody get it before Edgar? We see here he's on his calculator. See, look what he has down here. He's got 1,000. Imagine 1,000 people. Could you feed 1,000 people from that? Impossible. And remember how many fish he had? He had 2 fish. And Jesus said, let's feed 5,000 people with these 2 fish. Impossible. How many people would have to get fish? Let me work it out on the calculator here for him. Okay. 5,000 divided by 2 is 2,500 people. 1 fish for 2,500 people. Impossible. Impossible. But, of course, Jesus isn't just any ordinary person. He isn't just like you and me. He can do what's impossible. So this is what he says. Okay, get them, all this big crowd, and get them spread out and get them sitting down all around the area in groups of about 50 people. 50 people. Well, now here's a really hard one. 5,000 divided by 50. I bet you none of you can get that one. 5,000 divided by 50 is about 100. 100 different groups. Imagine, close your eyes and try to imagine 100 different groups of 50 people sitting around, and all the disciples have are these 5 loaves and 2 fish. And so they're not going to get much food. The disciples are looking, thinking, this is crazy. What's going to happen here? So they start, and Jesus looks up and he says, Father, thank you for this food. And he starts to break it and divide it, taking it and breaking it into pieces and giving pieces to the disciples and spreading it out. And this is what he does. He takes 1 loaf and then he takes another loaf and he just keeps breaking and breaking and dividing. And he takes the fish and he does exactly the same with the fish. He starts to break it and put it into baskets, and they keep going. And they keep going. and they keep going. And these wee tiny loaves, they keep going, and they keep breaking, and they keep passing them around, and they feed one group of 50, and they feed another group of 50, and they feed 10 groups of 50, and they feed 50 groups of 50, and before you know it, all 100 groups have got food. And they eat. You see his mouth hanging open, because it's amazing. They all eat. They all sit here and they eat their food, and when they're all full, they're all finished, then they send around some baskets to collect any food that's left over. Now, there shouldn't be any food left over. They've just had 5 loaves and 2 fish for 5,000 people. But they collect 12 baskets of leftover food. Not only did Jesus have enough for everyone, he had more than enough for everyone. Everyone got far more even than they needed that day in the wilderness. Jesus was able to feed 5,000 people with just 5 tiny loaves and 2 small fishes, and he did what was impossible. Remember we said at the start Jesus was really popular. And one of the reasons Jesus was really popular was because he could do all these amazing things that nobody else could do. And this is one of these things where Jesus does what nobody else could do. He took this boy's lunch and he spread it out and shared it out and fed 5,000 people. And that was impossible. And the things that Jesus did that were impossible, one of the things that we call them miracles. Miracles. A miracle is something that's impossible and yet something that Jesus makes happen. And so this is one of these great miracles of Jesus. He feeds 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. What an amazing miracle. Can you remember how many baskets were left over? 12, that's right. 12 baskets left over. Jesus can give us everything we need, more than everything we need. He is so amazing and so wonderful that he can take even a small boy's lunch and do an amazing, amazing thing with it. Isn't he great? Yep. Edgar might have followers, but Jesus has far more followers, because Jesus is far more important, far more special, far more amazing. He is absolutely brilliant, and we just love him, don't we? We think he is class. Okay, so hope you think that too. Hope you've enjoyed another Edgar story, and we look forward to sharing another story with you next week. Okay, so before Edgar says goodbye, he has one final thing he wants to do. He has to get dressed up for this. He was very keen to get dressed up, so he's going to put on his apron. Okay, let's get that. And he's going to put on his hat. Oh, I think you're back to front, are you? Yeah, let's get it on properly. Look your best. Right, so here he is dressed up in his cooking outfit. He loves to cook and dress up. And what he's going to give you now, the instructions. Let's fix your ears, they're all caught behind your hat. Okay, so now he's dressed up in his cooking outfit. Here's what we'd like you to do maybe for during the week. We always give you a challenge to do or a task to do, and some of you probably like cooking and baking, some of you maybe don't do too much, but this was the story about one boy who shared his lunch. Maybe you could make a sandwich for somebody and share that with them. Maybe you could bake something. Maybe you could cook a whole meal with your mum or your dad and share that with them, and do that and send a picture, and we'd enjoy seeing all the pictures, wouldn't we? So I've said goodbye. Time now for Edgar to say goodbye, and we'll see you hopefully next week. Bye bye.